A very good morning to you. It's another beautiful Monday. Welcome to Motivation Monday on Jan 316. My name is James Okumu. Thank you so much for taking the time to hook up with me. Good things we are about to talk about today. Many times when we think about being well and being able, we think about the physical aspect of life. We think about having a healthy body, having a strong body. Nothing wrong with that. But it's not just the body. There are other elements of our well-being that connect together to make you a wholesome person. One of it is our minds, and the other is our emotions. If you don't have a healthy mindset, if you don't have an emotional, a healthy emotional, you're not healthy emotionally, all these things work together and they can affect your performance. Actually, they do affect your performance. And so today we'll focus on the mindset and also on emotional well-being. How important is that for you and I as individuals? Mindset is a big thing, because the kind of mindset you have creates the reality you live in. Your mindset creates your perception, which creates your reality. And sometimes all you need is just to change your mind. The Bible says, do not be conformed any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Because when you have a new mindset, you begin to see things differently, and you begin to see possibilities, and things begin working in a different way. And so that is one area that we want to focus on today. We are looking at mindset and emotional well-being. Joining us via Zoom, we have a trainer and a speaker, Carol Njoki. Carol, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Pastor. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for agreeing to spend some time with us this morning. Karibu sana.
Asante.
So mindset and emotional well-being. Let's get a bearing of for our discussion today. When we talk about mindset, what are we talking about?
Pastor, when you talk about mindset, we are talking about our world view, how we look at the world.
Okay.
What sort of attitude we have about things, how we look at, how we interpret things, sometimes even our assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying even stereotypes are part of our mindset. The belief systems that we've grown up with, the ones we've picked along the way, all come together to form our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So in one sentence, I would say it's our world view, how we look at the world.
Okay.
And how we interpret the world.
Why is that important?
It is very, very important, because how we look at the world is how we speak.
Oh.
It is how we think. It is how we feel. If, for example, I am thinking about, I'll give a very obvious example of the situation that is going on. We are in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
The way I'm going to interpret this pandemic, if I'm full of fear, if I'm very worried that the world is coming to an end, or we're not going to have food, that is how I'm going to feel. That is how I'm going to speak to other people. That is how my body is going to feel, and that is how I'm going to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in the long run, even how my body interprets in terms of immunity, in terms of energy, will be affected by how I have interpreted this situation.
So are you saying my mindset can affect my physical well-being?
Exactly.
Oh.
Very much so.
Uh-huh.
We can actually, just like the Bible says, the power of life and death is in the tongue. Where do we get the words that come to the tongue from? We get them from our mind, from our thoughts. So the power of life, of your life, actually can be 100% affected by how your mindset is, by how your worldview is, and how then you interpret that. It is very subtle, day by day. We don't even much think about it, but exactly that's what happens. Yes.
Where do we pick up our mindsets from?
Everywhere. We pick up our mindset from how we were brought up.
Uh-huh.
Belief systems that we came across when we were growing up, when we went to school, the things that people told us, the people we hung around, the things we read, what we watch, what we listen to, and even what we allow ourselves to continuously feel will then later on feed into our mind again. So our life actually creates, unfolds in terms of mindset every single day. So everything around us will then impact how we look at the world.
Okay. Is there a right mindset and a wrong mindset, or it doesn't really matter?
Well, most people would like to talk about a growth mindset and an on-growth mindset, but I would also just want to say that technically there is a right way to hold your mindset. In other words, there's a negative mindset and a positive mindset, because there are things that even when you come across someone, there's a way that person speaks, there's a way they carry themselves, there's a way they interpret things, and you begin to feel uncomfortable. And Pastor, if we are very, very conscious of how we are feeling, of how we are hearing those words, we can actually begin to understand that there are things that don't resonate very well with the way we are made, with our being. And part of that can be part of what is our negative mindset, or people's negative mindset, the way they interpret things, the way when you come across traffic jam, you know, the things you say, I like to give that example because it's very common. The things you say to the next driver when you're cut, you know, they cut you on the road, or when the road is very busy, how you interpret that and how it's going to affect your day is your mindset. You continually do that, and it becomes totally a part of you, and it affects you in the same way every morning, every evening. And it ultimately affects your body.
Okay, that is interesting. You know, in the previous hour, I was talking a bit about the whole corruption issue, the whole COVID-19 millionaire story that everybody is talking about now. Would you say then, as a nation, we have a particular kind of mindset when it comes to corruption, and that is why we seem stuck with this whole issue?
I will give my very personal opinion on this one, Pastor.
Please do.
What I have noticed over time is that, you know, when you listen to something, when you come into contact with something for very long, it becomes part of you. You unconsciously take it up. So what has happened in this nation, unfortunately, is that we have had the story of corruption for so long. We have normalized a lot of corruption issues. In the long run, we have become desensitized to some of the issues of corruption. So that now, you hear people talking about, no, that's a small deal, that is not too much, they didn't steal too much, or this one has stolen too much. What is too much of a bad thing? So what has happened in this nation, very sadly, is that we are continuously getting desensitized to what corruption is, or the magnitude of corruption, and sort of getting to a place, and other people getting to a place of resignation. We have maybe made noise about this, nothing is happening, every day there's a deal, totally. In fact, as I was listening to that story, I was literally, you know, in shock. Like every single month during the COVID season, there has been, you know, something going wrong. So over time, if you're watching too much of that, if you're listening to too much of that, it can become part of your mindset, and you get, think about a young child who's grown up hearing corruption, hearing about all these deals, all these billions that get lost. They get used to the fact that in this country, this sort of monies get lost like that, and it is normal because they never hear of any conviction. Nobody's brought a book, or people are not brought a book, and so they can get to normalize that. And in their mind, their mindset takes up a worldview that, you know what, corruption is normal. And that is the danger that we could be in right there.
You know, Carol, many times when we are going through issues, we always want to place the blame on something outside of us. And now you're talking to us about our mindset. How does that connect? Because somebody else is always the problem. It's never us. It's always somebody else. And we are always looking for solutions. If only so and so could be like this, or if only this situation could change, my life would be better. In fact, if you talk to most of us, kuna mtu mahali amekalia baraka yetu. But now you're telling us there's something about our mindset. Connect the two for us.
Now, the act of always wanting to blame something out of us is also just an aspect of having not grown to a place of self-awareness, which is an aspect of mindset that allows us to be able to understand that if I can be able to take responsibility of the things that are happening with me, then I am more empowered to deal with them. You know what, Pastor? Every time you think that the fault is somebody else, then what you're saying is that you're powerless.
Yes.
You have nothing you can do about it. And when you're powerless, and that is why I keep saying that, the mind, the body, and emotions are actually triplets. Because when you take on that mindset, then the kind of emotion that you feel is hopelessness. Now, when you feel hopelessness, and you start asking yourself questions like, now, what can I do? It was not my fault. I am not in charge.
Yes.
Then your brain makes no effort to look for a solution. Because you've already communicated to the brain that, you're removed from that situation.
Yes.
And so part of getting more aware, and I'm sure somebody who's listening is thinking, what do you mean? Like in that case of corruption, what is my role? I'm not the one who was...
Yeah.
I like to say that we have different levels of, even, for example, that situation, corruption. So we have lower levels of corruption where the ordinary Carol and Pastor James, or somebody else, or John and Peter, are giving 200 shillings to the policeman, are not paying their some little money, saving 100 bob for garbage collection.
Yes.
So they dump the garbage on other people's garbage, so they don't have to pay the 200 bob. Now, those are levels of corruption at the level that person is able to practice it. And it sounds very awkward for me to say it is not different from the other corruption, because in a sense, if we're looking at sin, it is the same.
Yeah.
And what happens is, with time, you get desensitized to that level, and then you grow into bigger aspects of it. Now, what can I do about it? It is not my fault. When we begin to take on such a stand, we begin to remove the power from ourselves, from even thinking of solutions. Like, for example, in this situation of the pandemic, we are caught up with so many things that we need to begin to ask ourselves, so what can I change? Like, for example, I can openly tell you that I did not used to conduct any, wellness sessions on Zoom until this season came up. I was, I'm a very extroverted person, so I'm a physical person. I like physical meetings. This is very, and contact for me, and it is not for me. But I needed to ask myself, what needs to change? What can I do about it? Otherwise, I could have easily said, oh, I'll wait for the time that we can have physical meetings.
Yes.
But I have lost almost a year. So every one of us has a capacity to ask themselves, for example, if you're feeling badly about something, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? And what can I do about it? Even if it is in a small way. And what happens with that is it helps your mindset to feel empowered when you take time. Yeah.
Okay. Shortly, we'll talk about emotional well-being and just try to get an understanding of what that is and our role in it as well. Remember, it's Motivation Monday. Mindset and emotional well-being is what we are discussing today. Hosting Karen Njoki, who is a speaker and a trainer. If you have a question or a thought you want to add to this conversation, please feel free to do so. 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. Asante sana for joining us. Motivation Monday. We are looking at mindset and emotional well-being. In studio with us via Zoom, we have a life and wellness coach, Karen Njoki, with us this morning. Asante sana for joining us. Let's move on to emotional well-being. Someone would think, do we really have control of our emotions? They just appear at will and disappear. So when you talk about emotional well-being, what are you talking about?
I like the way you put it, that, people think that actually emotions just appear and disappear. We don't have control of them. And no, we do. Emotional well-being is actually one's ability to be aware of their emotions, to acknowledge them, because many times we do not acknowledge what we are feeling, and also to take the journey of asking oneself exactly what is that emotion telling me. In other words, I like to tell people, I don't think they're negative emotions. We just have empowering and disempowering emotions. So that, in a sense, when you feel angry about the traffic, what is that? You need to acknowledge that you get angry every time you find, traffic or, bad drivers on the road.
Yeah.
But the more important question is, what is that message telling you? Is it that you don't, you need to do something about it? Because, sometimes a message is sent through an emotion.
Yeah.
There's a message always being sent through that emotion. If I'm always getting very upset about that traffic jam, about corruption, maybe it is in my place to do something about it, whether it is getting sensitize people about it, maybe it is to get to maybe wake up earlier so that I don't find the traffic jam, whatever it is. But there's a message that we always are getting from an emotion that we need to sort of analyze and ask ourselves, what is the message? What do I need to do about it? Now, the most I think difficult part about emotional well-being is that, and mainly for men, Pastor James, we were not taught how to feel, how to acknowledge emotions. Most men will say that, they were told, do not cry, you're not a woman, why are you crying? Men don't cry.
Yeah.
In other words, they're feeling a certain emotion of pain, sadness, whatever it is, and they're expressing it, but they have been taught you do not express that emotion. So over time, their mind switches off and make sure that they're not expressing that emotion. Now, when you do not express an emotion, it doesn't mean that it has gone away. You're still feeling it inside. And that is why many times you ask someone, so what are you feeling? And they'll tell you, hivi too.
Yeah, niko tu hapo.
Been used to using words to express an emotion. Now, part of emotional well-being is the ability to always ask ourselves, what exactly am I feeling? And give it a descriptive word.
What's the importance of that?
The importance of that is, one, you acknowledge that you're feeling it. You see, if you're very angry and you're not acknowledging, what are you likely to do? Play it out, the anger. You react. Yeah. Suppress it, maybe, because you don't want people to notice you're angry,
yes,
which is still a negative way to deal with it. But if you acknowledge it, then you're more aware. For example, traffic. I use traffic a lot because I notice that we do not even realize how negatively we behave around traffic jams, around people who drive badly or people we think are driving badly,
yeah,
and ourselves driving badly. All those emotions are actually sending a message to us. And I wasn't either good at it before. I had to begin to acknowledge that I get irritated when, matatus stop me in traffic. So I asked myself, why do I get irritated? Because I don't like that behavior. So what can I do about it? Is there anything I can do about it? If I cannot either speak to that person and tell them, you know what, this is not right, what else can I do? I can begin to look at that emotion from another perspective, that, you know what, he has his own issues that are causing him to behave the way he's behaving. I don't have to react to his behavior.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we are reacting to behavior. Now, the more important part of this, Pastor James, believe it or not, is that half the time when we are expressing our emotions like that, we are actually covering up for another emotion that is coming as a result of something either we are dealing with or something we are unable to address ourselves. Say, for example, let me give an example so that it stops being very abstract. I am constantly getting annoyed on the road, traffic jam. Maybe I am stressed about my work. Maybe a family issue that I'm not dealing with. So what does the body do? My mind will find an easy path. Traffic is an easy path. If I tell you I was very angry that the driver cut me on the road, you'll understand.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go on into telling you that, you know what, Pastor James, I'm dealing with a family issue, I really need help. So the idea of getting very aware of our emotions is so that we can begin to ask ourselves the hard questions. why do I always get angry on the road?
Yeah.
What causes that? Is it really the traffic jam, or am I dealing with something else that needs to be addressed? And why do we need to address that? Because emotions affect how our body behaves. Emotions, actually, if you're constantly allowing yourself to be angry, to be to be sad for so many reasons that maybe you shouldn't be sad about, to be anxious, to be stressed, these emotions increase your fight or flight hormones.
Oh.
It was created to be able to react to danger. So you run or you fight. But when we over-exercise these emotions, then we are constantly in a state of fight or flight. In other words, we keep it chronic instead of acute. It's supposed to be calm, go, deal with danger, then finish.
Yeah.
But if you keep it chronic, then that sort of stress, those sort of emotions create stress in our body. Now that stress affects our immunity. And with time, it can affect our health. If our immunity is constantly getting compromised, then we get unwell. And most of the time, that is a bit we do not connect. We are unable to connect that these emotions are constantly affecting us. And these emotions, if we do not deal with them, then our body's health is going to be affected in the long run. And I like to say this, Pastor James, many times when I've talked about disempowering emotions, people ask me, so, for example, are you saying that when I've lost a loved one, I should look at it as an empowering emotion? Are you serious? Now, we started by saying acknowledge.
Yes.
What am I feeling? I'm feeling very sad because I've lost a loved one. Then number 2, find out, okay, what exactly about, that sounds very odd, but find out what exactly about that loss is making you sad. Is it the physical demise? Is it the things you used to do? Note them down. Then a question I always tell people to ask themselves, what else could this mean? It doesn't mean you're not feeling sad at that particular time. It means you're able to look at other aspects of that person that will empower you to feel better, to walk the journey of grief better, and also to be able to come up with something out of that demise. For example, you have seen people who have lost loved ones in situations of maybe disease, say, for example, cancer, and have gone on to form foundations.
Yes.
Why? Because they were able to bring out something. What else could this mean, this loss? It means it is time that I started fighting for the rights of people with cancer, or it's time I started sensitizing people about this sickness, or even if it is just starting a foundation to run a school, whatever it is. So there's always a way in which you can use a negative emotion to empower you. Now, when you get empowered, it means that it is not affecting your body negatively. It means that you have taken on the journey to be able to help your body use that emotion in a positive way. And it doesn't mean that you will not feel sad here and there every time you think about that person, but it means that you're empowered about that emotion.
Okay. When we talk about emotions, I recognize that, mostly it's the extremes. There, like you said, there are those of us, especially men, who don't show emotion. We suppress our emotions because that's what society and culture has taught us. But then you have those on the other side, especially women, who get swept away by emotions. And I've been in a situation where a woman gets so emotional, it becomes uncomfortable for me as a man because that's not my domain. I have never gone there. How do you deal with that? I'm thinking as a man, I don't know how to deal with that. So where do we create the balance? Because we must not suppress the emotions, but also we can't let our emotions always get to us. Kila saa unalia nini, that kind of thing. So where's the balance in all this?
Very good question, Pastor. Exactly the question we asked. Unalia nini,
Yes.
okay, I acknowledge again, yes, that there are situations where you may not be able to immediately deal with the person who has got sort of got out of hand in their emotions, but there is a point at which there's something that we call interrupting the pattern. Interrupting the pattern. For example, if somebody was wailing and you really needed to find out have they lost their child, or are they hurting, have they been hit, what is it, what are they wailing about? You can actually shout their name. If you shout their name, their brain will take a pause, and you'll have interrupted the wailing. And if you're consciously thinking about it, if I find you wailing, screaming, and say, "Pastor," most likely you will pause for a little bit. Now that is my moment to interrupt the wailing. And once I've interrupted the wailing, I can then ask you, what is it? Or how are you feeling? At that point, you're not likely to start wailing again. So the idea is, one, if it is a situation you're trying to control, either because it's getting out of hand, it's getting violent, you can interrupt the situation. Of course, if it's not violent, because if it's violent, you might get the wrath of it.
Yeah.
But then with time, even if you're not able to interrupt the situation at that particular time, there are situations that are fairly comfortable that you can allow the person to go through the emotion, and then when they're at a point when you're able to ask them, what exactly were you feeling? Now, in this kind of a situation, you will need to let this person know that it doesn't cut it for them to tell you, I don't even know what I was feeling. They need to come to a point where they are able to identify a word that describes their emotion, that is a descriptive word. Because until they get to that point, they will not be able to deal with the emotion, with exactly what they're feeling about the situation or what is causing them to feel that way. They need to be able to say, I was feeling very, very angry about you, Pastor James, because, then I'll ask, because, then you see, what is that to them? They are processing their own emotion. They are processing the thoughts that led to that emotion. Many times we do not acknowledge, we do not even know what we are feeling, we do not acknowledge the emotion, and then we do not process. When we do not process, then we cannot be able to actually deal with the emotion. So part of your way to help them so that you're not also feeling helpless is to, one, just help them come up with exactly what they're feeling. Two, ask them why maybe they could be feeling like that, and let them explain. And now the African culture, I guess, I don't know whether it is out there, we're also not used to too much silence. So if I'm asking you, Pastor James, how are you feeling? And you keep quiet for long, I'm likely to start talking, which is the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
I'm supposed to give you time to actually come up with a word without helping you. With could you be feeling sad? No. Let us enjoy the silence, because that silence also allows you to think inwardly. Exactly what am I feeling? So then come up with a word, and then we can talk around, that word. Okay, you're feeling sad. Why exactly are you feeling sad? What happened? What are the things that transpired for you to be able, to start feeling sad? The other thing about our emotions, Pastor, is that if we are careful, because you talked about extremities, we feel about 2, 3, or maximum 4 similar emotions day in, day out, every day. The 3, 4, 5, maximum 4 really emotions that recur a lot. Now, when we take on the self-awareness journey to be able to understand our emotions, one of the things that we do is to find out, what do I feel a lot on a daily basis? Am I usually feeling hopeless, happy, depressed, and maybe you can even write them down so that at the end of 1 week, 2 weeks, you can actually see a pattern. Oh, on Monday I was feeling depressed, and it happened again on Tuesday. Wednesday, Friday. Then you can ask yourself, okay, under what circumstances do I feel depressed? What is usually happening with me, around me, that makes me feel depressed? And the better still, you can be able to expound on depression, because depression is a word that means too much. If you can say, I was feeling overwhelmed, I was feeling hopeless, Those are better words to describe, other than maybe just stressed and depressed. We use Nikona stress sana, but exactly what are you feeling? It's better to go a little deeper. Yes.
So basically, you're saying it's good to take stock of your emotions over a season. You said that, and I remembered. I once had this diary, and there was a part there every day to fill in how did I feel today. What was,
Yes.
and I was wondering, sasa hii ni ya nini? But now that you say that, it makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And actually, if we could do that daily, at the end of the day, when we're doing our prayer, when we're doing our gratitude, we can actually note down, what did I feel mainly today? What was the overriding emotion or emotions? And keep noting them. And maybe even process that a bit. Why did I feel this way? What was happening? Was it called for? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Shortly, we'll talk about then how do I ensure that I have a growth or productive mindset and I am stable and well emotionally. If you have any questions for us today, 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. We are discussing mindset and emotional wellness. And in studio, I'm hosting Karo Njoki, who is a wellness coach, and she's helping us to gain a deeper understanding of some of these things we ignore, yet they have quite an impact on our lives. Now, before we talk about how then do I develop a strong mindset and emotional wellness, a question here asking, how do you deal with people who seem to enjoy pushing your emotional buttons? Yeah, they know you are a bit of the emotional type, and it's almost like they get a high from saying things that will get you emotional, either make you angry or, make you shed a tear here and there. How do you deal with such kind of people?
Very good question, Pastor. I will first ask the person who asked the question another question. They push your button, but can they make you respond? No. You choose how you respond. So my answer to him is this or her, that yes, we will come across those people. Yes, the traffic will make us want to get very mad or angry. But the question is, or the point to note here is that it is in my power, it is in your power to choose how you want to respond to that person. And that is where actually emotional power is. Part of emotional intelligence is the ability to be able to respond to something, to a situation, in a very judicious or in a very empathetic way. So take on the power to be able to remember that so-and-so or this sort of persons like to push me over the edge, but it is in my power to choose how I am going to respond. And I like to say respond, not react.
Not react.
Yes, respond. Response is a better way to deal with a situation than react.
Okay, so what do I need to do, going back to mindset, what do I need to do to cultivate and develop the right kind of mindset?
Very good question, because in these times we are in, we have been pushed to the very edge. Granted, there are very many things that are happening that would cause our mindsets to begin to wander off. Even if one had a very good state of mindset, there are things that are really pushing us to the edge to be able to now begin to say, wow, this situation is totally out of hand. I don't know what to do with it. Children are at home. We don't know. Maybe when they go back to school, there's so much happening. Jobs have been lost.
Yes.
People are emotionally feeling overwhelmed. Some of us who are outdoors, people have been in the house for very long. That is very unusual. So all these things will affect us. Now, the first thing is to ask ourselves, one, what is my ideal scenario? Like for me, my ideal scenario is being outdoors, talking to a lot of people. Then the next question is, so what can I do about the situation I'm feeling? Is there anything I can do? What is in my power? I can call someone so that I can talk to that person and feel like I'm with that person. That is in my power. I can walk take a walk in the estate and feel I am in the outdoors, that is in my power. Now, when we begin to do the things that are in our power, then we begin to open our minds to greater ideas of how to deal with the situation.
Okay.
So, number one, I would say that take time alone to process what you're feeling, what thoughts are coming to your mind. Remember, the thoughts that come to us, we express them most of the time in language and in emotion. So ask yourself, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I'm thinking at this particular time? So that you're in charge of your mind at this time. Number two, begin to choose what it is that you want to consume. In other words, stand guard at the door of your mind.
Ooh, very important.
Your mind, so that you're choosing the information you're consuming from social media. Right now, there is an overwhelming amount of negativity on social media. It is our responsibility to choose how much can I take of this? And in fact, not how much, where do I stop? Where do I draw the boundary? What am I going to allow myself to watch? What am I going to allow myself to hear? Pastor, there are times that we're not watching these things, but we are around people that are speaking a lot of negativity.
Very true.
So that is affecting our mindset. I tell people, why is it that when you hear a song first thing in the morning, it sometimes plays in your head the whole day?
Yes.
The mind is a sponge. It is taking in everything that you're seeing, everything that you're allowing yourself to listen to read, to talk about, and it is saving it in your subconscious. And it will give it back to you in a situation that you least know about. So we have to stand guard and ask ourselves, what am I allowing myself to hear? Let us reduce the amount of negative information that we can listen to on any one day. I worry so much for families that allow children to keep on watching the news about COVID numbers, about it's good to be informed, but the kids don't need to hear this every day because it affects mindset, it affects their emotions, and sometimes they're not able to express what it is that they're feeling. Number three.
Before you move to number three, Carol, how do you deal with what we call FOMO? Fear of missing out, because that's what social media has created, and there's always this internal panic. If I don't check out what's happening on social media every 15 minutes, I will miss out on what's happening out there. How do you deal with that fear?
Wow. Yes, fear of missing out. Truthfully, there is a sense in which people feel, or human beings feel, I could miss out. Now, one of the things that we all need to begin to tell ourselves and repeat to ourselves, like we said in the beginning, the power of life and death is in the tongue, is to remind ourselves that we are enough as we are. Each one of us is created complete, enough. The fear of missing out is a sense of not being enough, that I need somebody else to fill this gap. There's a gap here. Now, that is one. Number two, you can decide that I'll be on social media between 10 and 11. So that it is programmed. I'm on social media between 10 and 11, unless your work is on social media, And that is the time I am finding out what's going on, who said what's not going on, and stick to that. If you feel like you're missing out, remind yourself it is 10 to 11. If something drastic had happened, somebody would have called you. So nothing has happened. So it is 10, 11, and that's the time I will watch what is on social media and watch what is on news. And therefore, you begin to get a pattern. And once you get this pattern, what happens is that you feel quite empowered. Because you know what is happening, Pastor, is that we are getting very disempowered by information that is coming from outside. And we are not even aware that we are constantly losing ground emotionally. We are constantly losing ground in our mindset, and with time on our health, because of what we are consuming. So we have to consciously stop ourselves from over consuming it. And in the beginning, to be difficult to stick to the plan or to stick to the discipline, but with time, as you practice or somebody practices for longer, then they begin even to enjoy the fact that, I stayed out of social media for this long. Some families have what they call timeout.
Yeah.
That between this time and this time, you don't touch your phone, you don't switch on the TV. You can set up such little things, fun things, and during that time, don't make it a blank time. Don't make it time to do nothing. The mind is not like a vacuum. Make it time to do something else more interesting. It can be time to cook. It can be time to meditate. It can be time to read your Bible. It can be time to speak with your family. Just share what the day has been like. Find something more interesting to do. It's time to read a book, physical book. And that way, then you begin to enjoy the time out from social media more than the time in the social media.
One question before we run out of time. This one says, great conversation. What is the connection between emotions and facts? I ask because sometimes we feel emotions based on our perception of a situation, which is not necessarily accurate based on the fact on the ground. So what's the connection between emotions and facts?
The connection between emotions and facts is the perception that we give it. What the fact is, there is a pandemic. That is a fact. If I am feeling fearful, it is the emotion that I've allowed to go with COVID-19.
Yeah.
I am feeling hopeful. For example, you can tell yourself, goodness, we've never been in a situation like this. I'm waiting to see what the Lord will do in this one.
Yes.
That gives you a new perspective. So the between emotion and fact is the perception that you give it.
Wow. Somebody once said that perception creates your reality. It doesn't matter what's happening on the ground. It's how you perceive it that creates your reality.
Yes, it is true.
Okay, we have like 2 minutes, but I want to throw in something before you give us your parting shot. Just in reference to the story I shared earlier, the story of the children of Israel coming from Egypt, and they were supposed to go into the land of promise, but they never got there because their mindset did not change, and the purpose of the journey was for their mindset to change. Maybe you can say something to relate that to how we live life, especially as Christians. Sometimes we blame God for so many things, thinking he hasn't come through, but the problem really is not with him. The problem is in our mindset. Say something about that, then give us a parting shot as we wrap up.
Our mindset could be at a place of, I have prayed, God should, quote unquote, should answer. Now, what we need to begin to ask ourselves is, what am I in charge of? Or what is in my hands? What is in my power?
Yes.
What is in my power is to be able to speak with God, is to be able to put my requests before God. When and how he answers is not in my power. That releases me from feeling like I need to give God a timeline. So again, it goes back to how we view our mindset. What are we in charge of? We are supposed to take charge of what we are in control of and work with that. Once we work with that, then we release ourselves from feeling overwhelmed about things we cannot do anything about. That is what I would like to, because yes, as Christians sometimes also forget that, mindset and emotional well-being is literally everything about it is in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's in the Bible. Yes.
What's your parting shot as we finish?
My parting shot, Pastor James, is above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the issues of life. Literally.
Yes.
The issues of life come from our heart. We need to guard our heart, we need to guard our minds so that we can bring forth fruitfulness.
Wow. Karen Joki, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this morning. We are truly encouraged and motivated as we begin a brand new week together. We definitely must do this again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Pastor James. Have a good day.
You too. I hope you have been encouraged this morning and challenged. Mindset, emotional well-being, the ball is in your court. You, my friend, have the power to do something about your mindset and something about your emotional well-being.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.